30 days, that's all you had. 30 days before 300 employees lost their jobs. 30 days before the bank seized the company's assets. 30 days before a business that had survived for nearly 40 years disappeared forever. And somehow, you were the person expected to save it. Not because you were the most experienced, not because you were the smartest, but because everyone else had already given up. The call came on a Tuesday morning. You were sitting in a small apartment, answering emails and trying to figure out what to do with your life. Then your phone rang. Unknown number. Normally you would have ignored it, but something made you answer. Is this Ethan? The voice sounded serious. Yes. This is Robert Harrison, chairman of Harrison Manufacturing. You sat up. Harrison Manufacturing, the company your uncle built from a single warehouse. The company worth millions. The company you hadn't thought about in years. We need you here immediately. Your stomach tightened. Why? There was a pause, then he said something that changed everything. Your uncle passed away last night. Silence. For a moment, the room felt smaller. Your uncle wasn't just family. He was the closest thing you had to a mentor, a man who built something from nothing, a man everyone respected, a man who never seemed capable of failing. Yet somehow, he was gone, and now they needed you. 2 days later, you walked into the company's headquarters. It looked impressive from the outside. Large building, modern glass entrance, rows of employee cars. Everything looked successful, but appearances can be expensive lies. Inside, the atmosphere felt different. Nobody smiled. Nobody talked. People avoided eye contact. You could feel the tension, the fear, the uncertainty. Something was wrong, very wrong. You entered the boardroom. 7 executives sat around a long table. Stacks of financial reports covered the surface. Robert stood and motioned for you to sit. Then he slid a folder across the table. Before we discuss anything else, he said, you need to see this. You opened the folder. At first, the numbers didn't make sense. Then your heart sank. The company had lost money every month for nearly 2 years. Revenue was falling. Costs were rising. Debt was growing. Cash reserves were almost gone. You looked up. How bad is it? Nobody answered immediately. Finally, the CFO spoke. If nothing changes, she paused. We have about 30 days left. The room went silent. 30 days. Not 30 months. Not 30 weeks. 30 days. You stared at the numbers again. How could a company this large be so close to collapse? And then the chairman said something even worse. The banks already know. Over the next week, you met everyone, managers, supervisors, department heads, consultants. Every single person seemed to have an answer. We need more software. We need more managers. We need a larger sales team. We need more meetings. We need a restructuring committee. We need new reporting systems. Everyone wanted to add something. More people, more processes, more complexity. Nobody wanted to remove anything. And that was the first thing that bothered you, because the company already had everything. More software than employees knew how to use. More meetings than actual work. More reports than anyone could read. More managers than necessary. Yet somehow, the business kept getting worse. The deeper you looked, the stranger it became. Simple decisions required 6 approvals. Purchases needed 4 departments to sign off. Projects sat waiting for weeks before anyone acted. People weren't working slowly. The system itself was slow. And every year, someone added another layer, another rule, another process, another meeting, until nobody remembered why any of it existed. That's when you started asking a dangerous question. Not, how do we improve this? But, why does this exist at all? The next morning, you gathered the department heads, operations, finance, human resources, sales, procurement. Everyone sat around the conference table waiting for your plan. You stood at the front of the room. I've reviewed the company. Several managers nodded. Good, at least they were prepared. Then you continued. And I think we're solving the wrong problem. The room became quiet. One manager leaned forward. What do you mean? You pointed toward the financial reports. For 2 years, we've been losing money. Everyone nodded. So what's our solution? The answers came immediately. Better software, more automation, More sales staff. New consultants. You shook your head. No. Confused faces stared back. You walked to the whiteboard, then wrote a single word. Why? What does that mean? Someone asked. You turned around. It means before we add anything, you pointed at the word. I want to know why everything already here exists. The room exploded. One manager laughed, another rolled his eyes, a third crossed his arms. You had just challenged years of decisions, and people don't like that, especially when their careers are attached to those decisions. For the next several days, you became obsessed. You followed paperwork, you attended meetings, you watched production, you sat beside employees doing ordinary tasks, and what you found shocked you. A simple purchase order required 9 approvals. 9. A decision worth less than $500 could take 2 weeks. 2 employees were entering the exact same data into different systems. Every single day, entire departments existed to manage reports nobody read. One weekly meeting involved 17 people, yet not a single decision was made. The deeper you looked, the worse it became. It was like discovering termites inside a house. From the outside, everything looked fine. Inside, and the structure was rotting. And the strangest part? Nobody noticed, because everyone assumed someone else knew what they were doing. Then you found something unexpected, something that changed everything. Late one evening, while reviewing old records, you noticed a pattern. Many of the company's expensive processes had been introduced by the same manager. Mark, head of operations, the man everyone trusted, the man employees respected, the man who constantly argued against change. At first, you thought it was coincidence. Then you kept digging. More reports, more approvals, more procedures, more bureaucracy, all connected to him. You called Sarah, the CFO. Have you seen this? She looked through the documents. Her eyes widened. I thought these were board requirements. They aren't. The room became silent. For years, everyone assumed these systems were necessary. Nobody questioned them. Nobody verified them. Nobody asked why. And because nobody asked why, they multiplied, like weeds, slowly choking the company. The next board meeting was tense. You placed a stack of documents on the table, then looked directly at Mark. Why do we need these approval chains? Mark frowned. That's how we've always done it. You nodded, then asked another question. Why? He shifted in his chair. It reduces risk. How? Silence. The room watched. You asked again. How? No answer. Then you moved to another process, and another, and another. Every explanation led back to the same thing. Not logic, not efficiency, not necessity. Habit. People weren't defending good systems. They were defending familiar systems. And that's when you realize something important. The most dangerous words in business aren't, we're losing money. The most dangerous words are, we've always done it this way. Because those words kill innovation. They kill growth. And eventually, they kill companies. The following Monday, you made the biggest decision of your life. You started deleting things, processes, meetings, approvals, reports, committees, rules, one after another. Some managers panicked. Others accused you of being reckless. Employees worried you were making a mistake. For a few days, it looked like they might be right. The company felt chaotic. People weren't used to operating without layers of bureaucracy. But then something interesting happened. Decisions became faster, projects moved quicker, employees spent less time waiting, production increased. For the first time in years, people were solving problems instead of managing them. And that's when the turnaround truly began. 3 weeks remained, then 2, then 1. Every morning you walked into the office expecting another disaster. But the numbers were changing, slowly at first, then faster. Projects that once took weeks were being completed in days. Employees who had spent years buried under paperwork were finally doing meaningful work. The factory floor felt different. People moved with purpose. Problems were solved immediately. Communication improved. For the first time since arriving, you felt hope. Then Sarah entered your office carrying a report. She looked different, excited. You need to see this. She placed the report on your desk. You scanned the figures, then looked again. You thought it was a mistake. The company had recorded its first profitable week in nearly 2 years. Not because sales exploded, not because investors arrived, not because of a miracle, because waste had been removed. The company wasn't suddenly making more money, it had simply stopped losing so much of it. And that changed everything. 3 days before the deadline, the bank scheduled a meeting. The same bank that was preparing to seize company assets, the same bank that believed the company was finished. You entered the conference room with Sarah. Across the table sat 3 executives. None of them looked optimistic. One of them opened a folder. "We've reviewed your recent performance." You nodded. He continued. "The improvements are impressive." But then he paused. Your stomach tightened. "We still have concerns." The room felt heavier, months of work suddenly hanging in the balance. Then another executive spoke. "What exactly changed?" It was a simple question, but the answer surprised even you. You didn't mention software. You didn't mention consultants. You didn't mention new technology. Instead, you said, "We stopped doing things that didn't need to be done." The room went silent. One executive smiled, another nodded. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then the lead banker closed the folder. "We're extending your credit line." Relief hit like a wave. The company had survived, not because someone discovered a secret strategy, not because of luck, because someone finally questioned the system. Looking back, the solution seems obvious, but it wasn't, because most people attack problems in the wrong order. When something breaks, they add more software, more meetings, more rules, more employees, more complexity. You almost made the same mistake. Instead, without realizing it, you followed a framework used by some of the world's most successful innovators. First, you questioned every requirement. Then, you removed unnecessary processes. Then, you simplified what remained. Then, you accelerated decision-making. And only after everything worked would you have considered automation. Most people automate chaos. The smartest people eliminate chaos first. That's the difference. A year later, Harrison Manufacturing was profitable again. The employees kept their jobs, the company continued operating, and the business everyone thought was dead survived. But the most important lesson had nothing to do with factories, or banks, or balance sheets. Because this story isn't really about a company, it's about how people think. Whether you're building a business, managing money, starting a project, or solving a personal problem, the temptation is always the same. Add more, do more, complicate more. Yet the answer is often the opposite. Simplify, question, remove, focus. The biggest breakthroughs rarely come from adding something new. They come from eliminating what shouldn't have been there in the first place. And sometimes, the difference between failure and success is having the courage to ask one simple question: why?